minutes late, and that is because 2.5 minutes, because we were all debating what is the exact meaning of losing one's deposits, because we were talking about the elections at the MCA. Shomik is the one responsible for this because he was the one who triggered this conversation and stopped us from starting the show. But joining us, full house, Trisha and Snehashish from Mumbai, staying on for another day. Shubhan from Australia looking jaded because he wants to sleep. Bharat from Bangalore. Shomik also from Mumbai. Gargi has disappeared. Trisha, Snehashish, still not even 24 hours. You guys have now moved base from Navi Mumbai to Mumbai. But the question that we are debating in this show, not exactly debating, discussing, has the sport changed forever? Can we say justifiably, Trisha, that the women's game has changed forever? Are we in a position, you reckon, to say that things will no longer be the same?
Yeah, I'm definitely sure. I'm positively sure that that's the case. That this sport is not going to be the same anymore after last night, and it should not be. If it remains the same even after this triumph, then might as well shut shop. I mean, that's about it. But no, I don't think there is no way that the sport. Globally, it's not only in India. I think because whenever India succeeds, especially in cricket, BCCI is a huge chunk with has a relation with ICC, as it has what do you call that, revenue sharing and all with ICC. So in general, when cricket grows in India, it grows globally. So I think this win is going to not only change women's cricket status, the corporates coming in, and everything in India, it will happen globally as well. As I said, just before this World Cup, WPL itself, Boryada had brought in that change where South Africa, for the first time ever, South Africa women's team has been playing for such a long time. But this year, they actually got their first ever domestic contract. This will only get better. And think of this, back-to-back semi-finals for South Africa. You might say they choked, they didn't win, etc. But back-to-back finals, sorry, not semi-final, back-to-back runners-up for them. And then India winning the World Cup, the all-important trophy. I think it's going to change the face of women's cricket in the coming years. This is just the beginning of a sea of change that we are going to see.
Shubhan, if Trisha's right, I mean, when we say change, change is a kind of and now I'm trying to sort of make this a little serious. When we say change, we are talking about a kind of an intangible construct. Change. Perception wise, I understand. Perception wise, the sport will have more credibility, more stature, more eyeballs. But in real terms, when I say real terms, you already have the WPL. The BCCI has announced a 51 crore honorarium for the players. Where do you reckon is the change? Do you think more corporate money will come in? Do you think more investment will happen? Do you think more sponsors will step up? Do you think more fans will watch round the year and not come and watch only the semi-final and final? Do you think more return on investment will happen? When we say change, Shubhan, what exactly do we mean if we have to quantify that change?
I think Boria, it has to start from the fans. I would say from the fans, from the ones who go to the stadium. I think that is where the interest will. We can see the end result. I was going through social media posts and people are talking about 3 crore people, 30 million people tuning in for the final. I was seeing stadium being packed, lines, queues for tickets. I think it has to continue in women's cricket, not only men's cricket. I think women's cricket is at a stage after this win, especially where currently India's Olympic sport is. People celebrate the medals, people celebrate the result, but over the clock, after you won't even know. Not many people will know what others are doing at this moment. Yes, Neeraj Chopra is a phenomenon. He has changed the tide in javelin, but in other sports that is still a challenge. And I think women's cricket will stand at this position after this World Cup. From the BCCI side, I think they are doing decently good. From the it has to change from this state association side as well. There are a few like a CAB I have seen firsthand. They do a lot for women's cricket from the grassroots, but I think it has to spread to other leagues, other state associations as well, in terms of being able to lay down that platform for the future. We can say inspirational, motivational. They have changed the lives of millions of girls who are dreaming to be cricketers. But for those millions of girls, I think the foundation has to be laid by state associations now. BCCI is giving them funding. Don't just spend it on men's cricket, or don't just spend it on stadium infrastructure. Use the money to develop the grassroots, state grassroots levels as well. So yes, there are multiple tournaments under 23, under 17, but overall you have to give better facilities so the girls can train at the same level as the boys do. So I think it has to start from there, and of course there will be interest, but it will depend on how the crowd sticks to women cricket all through the year.
Trisha, one quick word to you before I go to all my other guests. When we say this, Shubham makes this very important point about state cricket associations. Bengal, for example, when they started the Bengal Pro T20 League, they started simultaneous. They said women and men. You covered the women. The matches were held in the afternoon. You and I have a problem with that, and we will continue to have a problem with that because you cannot play in 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in 45 degrees heat. And we have made that point amply. I mean, that is our job to be critical. We will be. Having said that, the tournament went hand in hand. The men and women tournament were launched together. We now see these state leagues almost everywhere in the country. I see a Vidarbha league, I see a Delhi league, I see a Tamil Nadu league, I see a Karnataka league, I see leagues everywhere. How many states have women's leagues which go hand in hand, Trisha? Now you follow the sport very closely. Do all of them now have proper women's leagues? And when I say leagues, I mean proper women's leagues, not just for the sake of it.
I think a lot of states have, and a lot of states don't. Delhi does. I think Delhi began last year. Maharashtra began this year. Um, Karnataka has been having a KPL for quite some time. Andhra began this year. Of course, Andhra is taking giant leaps. And I think one big thing with Bengal and Andhra, both you have to understand is both have involved the giants of the game. They have involved Mithali Raj and they have involved Jhulan Goswami. Why am I telling you this? Because Boryada, when you talk about change, for example, I was talking to Mithali and she said the Andhra Cricket Association now for under 15 girls in the off season have actually arranged some sort of, I'll understand that better, but when it comes to nutrition, they actually send them that food that they need for nutrition, the proper nutrition of an under 15 women's player. And that is only possible because there is a Mithali Raj involved, there is a Jhulan Goswami involved, there should be a Veda Krishnamurti involved, there should be a Rima Malhotra more hands on, because this is where the change can come from, to be honest. And that's why the two states which are making rapid strides are, of course, Bengal and Andhra. The other thing is, yes, as I said, Andhra Premier League has been launched. And the camps that are happening when we were kids, Gargi will vouch for it. The only camps used to happen when there were state leagues. So you go for a camp, then you go for state matches. So and not even a 1 month camp because nobody had that much money. So it was always that 10 days, and you straight away go into 4 or 5 matches. So there, I think the camps are increasing. The kind of and the big states have done that. The smaller ones now need to come up, and they will eventually. This victory actually means that you can pump in more money. How much, what amount, that is another calculation that I am not 100% sure yet.
I will come to you, Gargi. Shomik, this is a critical question, and we need to address it. This from Rofo, that change of mentality. He's actually referring to Shaurav's comment on Sana, and Shaurav has been trolled all day today. Firstly, the comment was made in 2013. Thereafter, the same person was instrumental in the start of the WPL 7 years later when he became the BCCI president. So why are we not taking that into account when we are giving the trajectory? We should give the full trajectory, that this was the same man when under became BCCI president, started these things. This was the same character who started the WPL. This was the same character who said X number of matches. Why are we selectively picking out a comment from 2013 and trolling him all day? Show me your thoughts on that. By the way, this is no defense or support of anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the same man who is mentoring the Delhi Capitals women's side also. So from that
Well,
point of view,
yeah.
yeah. So from that point of view, see, time has changed, perception has changed. There was a time, if you ask the likes of Diana Edulji and Shanta Rangasamy, they will tell you how difficult it used to be. Society was different. It is the continuous evolution. It is absolutely continuous evolution. So, and it is not related. It is not related to women's cricket. It is cricket, a sport cannot be taken into isolation. I will not sort of comment made in 2013 in isolation. 100 years back in England, the sanctum sanctorum of democracy, Oscar Wilde was jailed for being a homosexual. That was the society back then, right? And now you see the change everywhere. So this is the time. 2023 was 12 years ago. 2023 from 2012 to 2025, the perspective, everything has changed. And you started off with that question whether it will change commercially or the women's cricket. See, I have my reservations in the sense to use a purely economic term. This will see, I hope, this will see women's cricket coming out of the cycle of the law of diminishing returns. Whether it will take the path of undiminishing growth, I am not so sure. It didn't happen with India women's hockey after the women's team secured the medal, after the women's team secured the medal, or at the Asian level, or went very close to secure a medal at the Olympics. It didn't happen. I think this will make the WPL more glamorous, more glamorous. At the end of the day, from the corporate's point of view, we see the money coming in everything. But the market is a bit saturated in terms of sport investment. India has only one sport to speak of. And in that case, the market is a little saturated in terms of making investment in sport. And whatever the investment is coming, men's cricket will always gobble up or will always take 80% of that. So the rest will have to deal with the other 20%. It will make
So
the
if I
WPL
take
more
that point,
glamorous.
if I take that point from what Shomik is saying, the blunt thing is men's cricket subsidizes the women's game in terms of money. That when you are spending 100 crores, is the 100 crores straight away ROI coming from the women's game? The answer is no. So far, the men's game or the men's cricket money or the IPL money or whatever money is subsidizing the women's game. Do you actually see that change, Gargi? Do you see that over a period of time, okay, a projected period of 5 years or a projected period of 10 years, the game becoming self sufficient, at least becoming, say, as viable as India's second best sport, second most popular? Because for me, men's cricket and women's cricket are two different sports. Can women's cricket become India's number two sport, Gargi Rao? That is the question I'm asking you. I'm not saying it will become men's cricket overnight. It can't. Let us be realistic and candid. Not one World Cup, not two World Cups can make it a men's cricket equivalent in terms of ROI in one day. It is not happening. But can it become India's number two sport? I don't want it to go the ISL route. Look at what has happened with All India Football Federation, the ISL route. It has gone mad. So that's my question to you. Where is the sport headed? How optimistic are you?
I do see the potential, and you see the kind of changes that BCCI, JSHA, and the rest of the authorities have brought in women's cricket in the past 5 to 6 years that we've seen. We've seen incredible amounts of funding come in. We've seen that at the state level. We've seen that at the domestic level. Changes happening at the grassroots level as well. Interest for the sport rising. But ultimately, the way that I see it is for a sport to be commercially viable, for a sport to be like you're saying, the number two sport in the country, there has to be a massive audience build up as well. I think any success for women's cricket when it comes to the commercials will also largely depend on how many people are watching that sport. Last night we saw the entire DY Patil Stadium. Mumbai is a city that absolutely breathes and lives cricket. They turned up for the final, and this is the kind of support that women's cricket will need over and over, match after match, series after series. and tournament after tournament for it to become that number two sport. So it largely depends on the audience as well. How does BCCI take the game? It really depends on making every single game interesting, entertaining, and for the fans to come in and actually turn on their TV screens, turn on their phone screens, and watch the match. How does the BCCI go ahead and market this? Or rather, now I think it will happen organically that people will start taking a lot of interest in women's cricket after this particular moment, and people will come in and watch those series. I think 2026 World Cup is also a huge opportunity for the Indian women's team to cash in on that. But yes, I think it also largely depends on audience and how many people are watching the sport.
Bharat, suppose India doesn't win the 2026 Women's World Cup. What happens? Will the momentum be sustained? The World Cup is in 8 months from now. If suppose you don't win, suppose you did not win yesterday. Now that you won one, chalo, let's fast forward. We are talking about a World Cup in 8 9 months from now. Do we reckon that the gains can be sustained, or is it performance driven? Because then you are putting a guillotine on the head of these women. Our men's cricketers don't win every World Cup. They did not win anything between 2013 and 2024. We won nothing. The truth is, the men won nothing. But did that impact the commercial value of the men's game? The answer is no. Eventually, the men's game won in 2024. But every year, exponentially, the value became higher and higher and higher. So if we are saying, okay, the women will have to win it in 2025 or 6 or maybe in 7, then it's not possible. There are other teams also who are playing to win. So how does one sustain this growth curve, Bharat, or this momentum? Because honestly, crowds yesterday obviously was jam packed. People wanted to be there. It had turned itself into a spectacle. How many people were there? How many people were there in, say, Indore or Vizag or Guwahati or, for that matter, Colombo? Those are also questions. Is this sustainable growth or is this one off, Bharat Ramraj?
Yeah, first of all, it's unfair to compare men's cricket and women's cricket, because what I'm trying to say is men's cricket was at a different stage, even in from 2013 to 2024, in terms of investment for grassroots cricket. So it's basically unfair to tell women cricketers they were not winning the World Cup and all that stuff, because a lot more investment needs to be done in relation to grassroots cricket. I can think of KSA itself. Shanta Rangaswamy, the legendary Shanta Rangaswamy ma'am, when she was talking in an event related to KSA, she was talking about how the grassroots cricket is still kind of it's a broken system here in KSA, and a lot needs to be done. I know that Maharani Trophy was played in 2025 the tournament, but still a lot more has to be done. She was talking about that, and she's a no nonsense kind of legendary cricketer. So a lot more investment needs to be done. And when it comes to sustaining women's cricket's growth, then what I have to say is maybe the mindset also has to change. When you watch women's cricket, there's a different style of play. There's still lot more skill in terms of swing bowling, in terms of flight bowling. You have to see it in a different way when you watch women's cricket. A lot of fans of men's cricket, maybe they look at it from a power game, look at it as a power game. Suddenly, they may not exactly get attracted to women's cricket. So your mindset also has to change. That's what is the case over a long period of time as well. In 1997, I guess, when the Hero Honda World Cup was held, I vaguely remember when India was playing Australia in the semi-final. Women cricketers themselves had to kind of move the side screen. There was no one around to do it. And in 2005 World Cup, I think the final was not telecast live. As a women's cricket aficionado, I had to watch ESPN's Sports Center somewhere at 7:30 or 8 p.m. to understand what was the score line. So uh, if you want to think about sustaining growth of women's cricket, I think it will happen gradually, because as I noted, you need a kind of mindset change in relation to how do you watch women's cricket. I'm not trying to degrade women's cricket here. What I'm saying is it's a different pattern, a different style of play when it comes to women's cricket. Maybe those fans who come for the IPL and all that stuff only are thinking about power game, and they're thinking like that. So, but it's unfair. Basically comes unfair. Women women's cricket to say it's a new sport.
Got your point, Bharat. Snehashish question for you. So he's basically saying what I said. I think it's a different game. You cannot have the parameters or paradigms that you use to judge men's cricket and come and apply on women's cricket and say, hello, an 85-meter six or a 135-kilometer delivery. Or, this is a different sport. But there is a question. And by the way, I understand this question where he's coming from. Or somebody just asked saying that, there is a lot of interest about some of these players. Why are we not doing stories about these players? Now, that's my problem. This question, by the way, this question is a good question. I think Roko or somebody asked the question. The question is a good one, Snehashish. But my problem is he's telling us, okay, do the stories now. You have done these stories already 6 months back. The point is, India, and this is an Indian problem. We come and invest money in a sport after it has done something. Honestly, everyone should get money. But Smriti Mandhana getting a few more crores or a Harmanpreet Kaur getting a few more crores will do nothing to them. Will that impact the grassroots, the next girl at 13, 15, 17, 19, 21? Do we even bother about that in India? Or even fans? Why are we not telling the stories of these girls? These stories have been told. Have you guys read it? Maybe you haven't read it. Have you followed them? You haven't followed them. My problem is we are a society that will recognize only the winners and not the losers. Snehashish, your thoughts?
Yes, absolutely. I think, and this is a long-lasting problem, I will say, and especially in women's cricket. If you see, as you mentioned, that we have already, did these stories on Pratika Rawal's coach, speaking on her, Amanjot's coach, obviously. In future, and we talked with her also during the WPL stint. So I think we have done it, but how many people read that? How many people see?
That's the point.
That's the
They
point.
they want to read it now.
Yes, because they are the world champions right now. If somehow things could have gone to the other way, should the interest be the same? That's
Yeah,
the
of course
question.
not. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the question. But that shouldn't happen. I think one more thing that I would love to see changes, obviously, more investment at grassroots level and all. I think domestic matches should be telecasted more. I think then
Correct.
people will come, people will come to know about these players more because in a WPL, one or two players come up like Infi Charani or someone like Amanjit Kaur after a long injury layoff, she make a comeback and people come to know about her. But when you see, but I would love to see a domestic tournament where Shefali
For
Verma is
women
playing.
especially.
Yeah, Shefali Verma playing when she is not in the the radar of the national team. When a Vaishnavi Sharma is bowling, when she is one of the upcoming stars of the Indian team, she will be in the radar in the upcoming today. Nikki Prasad is captaining her side.
Paramika Sisodia.
Yes, Parunika Sisudia. So I think more domestic matches should be telecasted. I think that will help more to what the factor that we are talking about sustaining the game. I think that will help a lot. And I think now with this World Cup, I hope that more positiveness outing for us. I think as you go forward, you have to give some time. You have to give some time. You cannot expect result. As you mentioned, in upcoming 8 9 months there is a World Cup. If the team doesn't manage to even qualify for the semi-final, it doesn't mean that's the end of the road. You have to
Yeah.
give them time, and it's a different format. Even you have to give you have to consider cycle. From 4 year cycle for a ODI World Cup, two
Also,
year
you have to
cycle for the
understand the
T20 World Cup.
transition of the team.
Yes, absolutely.
But I want to add one more point to what all of you said. I do think there is certain changes that can be brought to the broadcast as well. Especially when it comes to commentary. It's one thing to feed people with the data of certain players, but also you need, a number of times when you hear a lot of male commentators, especially commentating, it almost seems like in their head they are confused between the two games. While I understand why that happens, but also if you are having people commentating, like for example, Jan Bishop is someone who has come with his homework done absolutely correctly, and he will not compare the two sports. As a commentator, if you're comparing the two sports, that becomes a problem as well. So I think and I hope so, that this sport has found its identity. What I thought, Boryada, is this sport always lacked its identity. It was a cousin of the, men's cricket. I hope from after what happened yesterday, it now can stand alone. Like the World Cup started, like Olympics and Paralympics are two standalone events. Like that, I want men's cricket and women's cricket to be two completely standalone games. You cannot be saying that so has 100 strike rate, so poor, so and so average, because the men's game and women's game are two different sports.
Rishabh,
Absolutely two different sports.
that's exactly what I said. My point is, women's cricket, that is the question I asked Gargi, can women's cricket become India's number two sport? Men's
Yeah,
cricket
I
is a
think it's
different proposition. Women's cricket is a different proposition. The moment you say men and women's cricket, no, because
yeah.
women's cricket is a different sport, different marketing, different eyeballs, different constituency, different pattern, different parameters, different skill set. Everything is fundamentally different. That's why I think the change also should happen with us, whether it is the pace of it, whether it is the
And
viewership
sorry,
of it,
Korea, the
whether it
one
is
more. The physiological difference is
everything.
also something that people don't understand. And I'll tell you why I'm bringing this up. It was in the semi-finals, as we have discussed previously as well, that in semi-finals and finals there were a lot more journalists who came to cover the match, right? So I was hearing a set of journalists discuss, अरे इनका तो सिर्फ 25 मीटर का वो इनर रिंग है, 60 मीटर का तो सिर्फ बाउंड्री रहता है, हमारे विराट विराट होते हैं तो ऐसे ही छक्के मारते, विराट क्यों खेलेगा विमेंस क्रिकेट के डायमेंशन के साथ, इनका बॉल भी छोटा होता है, हाँ क्योंकि इनका हाथ छोटा होता है, हाइट छोटा छोटा होता है एवरेज फीमेल का, मतलब these are the things that people need to understand. When you say women's cricket progressing, I think these things also need to come in. When women's cricket has to be recognized as a different sport, this mindset has to be shifted as well.
Shubhan, when we say that the BCCI is doing its bit now, BCCI indeed is doing. Let's first put that in context. The BCCI indeed is doing its part. Having said that, go easy. They are just stupid. Okay. So they are talking about the journalists. No, forget stupid, not stupid. She's actually making an important point, Roko. But Shubhan, when we say that the BCCI is doing its bit, even the BCCI ultimately now take the Olympic Games. And I'm going to give you a bit of a controversial example. What has the IOC mandated? The IOC has mandated equal participation, 50% and 50% for men and women for every Olympic Games. Otherwise, it's not happening. And it's a mandate. Why administration should not be mandated? IOC now has a 41-year-old woman president in Kirsty Coventry from Zimbabwe. Yes, I understand it's a democratic process. Yes, I understand that there are people who have fought the ladder and come up, but it's not charity, right? It's not BCCI अभी कर रहा है यार, देखो कितना कर दिया है. ये तो sport है. I mean दोनों sport equal है. चलो participate. Now my point is, will this one, and the point I'm trying to make is Shanta Rangaswamy in administration, or Diana, or for that, how many state associations have even one woman deciding factor, president, whatever? How many have you seen? Rupa at one point in time deputized for Mr. Srinivasan. Tell me, I mean, why is it that, come on, do it, earn your pound of
Recently,
flesh.
NCCA has got Arundhati Kirkire as their general secretary, if I'm not wrong, right?
So my question, Shubhan, is it should also happen in admin, because the
Yeah.
moment it happens in admin, a Gargi who went puts out an Instagram video saying, "Oh, you know what? I'm having to play with men's cricket gear." These are fundamental points. Women's cricket is still run by a male bastion. That is the truth. Is that fair? I'm not saying it's unfair, fair. Whatever your thought, Shubhan, should more women, cricketers, say Mamata Mabel, a Diana Edulji, a Mithali Raj, a Jhulan Goswami, and Anjum Chopra, should all of these people also migrate at some point in time into admin?
I think more than admin, yes, of course. I mean, administration is a completely different aspect of a sport, and very important aspect of a sport. And administration is something, I this is my personal feeling. If it if anyone, be it male or female, is capable enough or is skillful enough to be there or deservingly enough to be there, then it should be. BCCI president has to be a male. I don't agree with that. If a female is there, if a Jhulan Goswami or a Mitali Raj in the coming days or an Anjun Chopra in the coming days say something was started. Wait a second, I think.
What happened? What happened?
Well, don't
Sorry,
give that
I
look.
got a
It's very
call. I got
scary.
a call. I got a call. I
Okay,
got a call.
thank God.
So
Don't
what
make
I was
that face,
saying,
yeah. All of us thought there is an
no,
emergency or
I
something.
was,
Come on.
I was finding that notification bar. But anyway, what I was saying is, if a women cricketer of the past is wants to become a BCCI president, then the door should be open there. However, having said that, if a male administrator is there, I look it as a CEO of a mobile company. For example, an Apple CEO will never say that I am making this phone for a woman or I am making this phone for a man. He is making a phone for everyone. So a BCCI president or a secretary or a state association president secretary should make the same grounds for both male and female cricketers. The infrastructure should be the same, which the COA Center of Excellence currently is. It's open for everyone. It should have happened 10 years, 15 years back. But thankfully, there's a kahawat in Hindi, "Der hai durust hai." We have just come up in the scene now, and you can see the results, you can see the impact. WBBL started a decade back, WPL started 5 years, 3 years back. But you can see the impact, you can see the Sri Charani, you can see the Kranti Gorge, you can see the Shriyanka Patil. So that platform has to be given, and that's why initially I stated state association, because BCCI is giving fundings to every state association, and now it's upon a CAB or a DDC or a UPC or anyone to utilize those fundings. Better utilization will come if a able administrator is there, if a able state association secretary is there, when he is meeting for a AGM in that particular state, then he will say, "Nahin, if I am giving 50 CR for a men's team for for a under 23 tournament for their all the matches and logistics, then I should give 50 CR for the women's also." The initial example
Hardik,
you gave, CAB matches being played in 145, that can be better timed. I'm not saying make them play under the lights, but you can call them 9 a.m. in the morning and say, okay, this is a better weather to play. Go ahead and have a game.
actually, that was my question, Garvi. That when it is suppose I'm an administrator in the men's domain, it is already cluttered. We have already progressed to a certain point where, in order to make a real dent in the men's domain, it is almost impossible because you've done quite a bit already. As an administrator, to make a dent in the women's domain is easy. When we are saying CAB, Shubhan gave the
No,
example of a
okay.
9 a.m. game. हम क्यों नहीं कर सकते कि चलो 2 दिन खेल लेंगे 1 o'clock, then men will play 1 o'clock for one day. At least start करो ना, क्या problem है? So 2 days the women play 1 o'clock. Third day let the men play 1 o'clock. The women will play under floodlights. What's the problem? Why is it that the women's game will have to be played at 1 p.m.? Because frankly, a state league, neither the women's matches nor the men's matches are watched much, at least in June. All of us know that in the case of Eden Gardens, it's relatively empty. So why is it that the women will have to play 1 p.m.? Secondly, if you are say an administrator and you are saying, okay, I will start more on this front for the women, do I have a kind of clean slate there to make a fundamental difference? All I'm trying to ask you is, for men administrators who are already ensconced in positions of power, is it not an opportunity now to look at this and say, oh, you know what, make my legacy, I will do this one better? Gargira.
Boria, you use the word or use the phrase clean slate. I think not only do these administrators have a clean slate, but also a historic win to build something off of. You now have a great foundation when it comes to this particular win, this particular World Cup win, first in history. The tables have turned. Everything has changed and will change after this for generations to come for Indian women's cricket. Now, when you talk about the facilities part, this is why I said that a lot of changes have to be made at the state level, at the grassroots level, because I remember, and I'm sure Trisha has had similar experiences as well, but I remember when I was a part of Vidarbha camps, lots of them, year after year. What used to happen was, because there are two stadiums in Nagpur, one is the civil lines, the older one, and one is the Jamtha one. Now, the indoor facility and most of the practice sessions happen at the civil line stadium. Now, what would happen is, because the men's and women's camps would happen at the same time, it was usually the case that the men's would get the indoor facilities, the indoor gym, the main ground. Yet the women's team always had to be shifted to a university stadium, or a different cricket stadium would be, a cricket ground would be hired, or a school ground would be hired, and we would have to practice there, or we would have to do all of our training sessions there. Now, these are the same examples
Excellent.
that you're doing on a larger scale, but ultimately it comes down to the quality of competition that is there at the grassroots level. It comes down to the quality of competition at the state level. If you're not raising the quality there, then you're not going to get a solid pipeline of talent for women's cricket. That gap between international cricket and WPL and then domestic cricket, I think still is huge when it comes to Indian women's cricket. And uh, for administrators, day after day, I think the focus should be more on how to reduce that gap of quality, and that will automatically lead to better everything for women's cricket, especially its
And
commercial viability.
Shobik,
And
I
I
don't know
think,
if you
Boria,
can.
just to give a quick comment here, I think we say that young cricketers should take a lot of inspiration from those playing at the highest level. I think it's a great opportunity for all the budding administrators also, regardless of their age, to take inspiration from Jaisha also. Yes, he made equal pay, he beat only salary, only the match fee. Yes, there's a huge difference in the central contract, but he has still made the match fees equal. He has made the match fee equal. WPL,
He
we
has
give
taken
credit to
few steps.
Yes, Saurav Ganguly, Jay Shah, we have seen him actively advocating for the women's team. And that is why you can see Jay Shah's poster being there, people talking about Jay Shah, journalists,
Correct.
people talking about Jay Shah, because he has
Correct.
taken some steps. So if I am sitting at the Uttarakhand, I am a secretary of Uttarakhand League or a Himachal League or any state association, I will say this is a time, even if I want to hog limelight, even if I want to come in headlines, I can make steps and hog that limelight deservingly. So it's great opportunity for budding administrators or those who are in power to do the same and hog some limelight. This is a good limelight to have. It will benefit the cricket in India.
Fair point,
Boryata,
Shobik.
can I add something to this? Sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
What Gargi was saying, I just wanted to add something to it. For example, even for Bengal Premier League, we started talking about Bengal Premier League. How many women's matches are played at Eden Gardens in the Bengal Premier League itself? Women matches are played in the Jadavpur Salt Lake campus, and the men's matches are in the Eden Gardens. So the main ground is still for the men's, and the side ground is for the women's. So these things can change. Maybe this is something that the pitches, the first point that we were thinking of is when it comes to the World Cup, we have been saying, where are pacers? Where are our pacers? How can we ever have pacers, Boryada? Harping on what Gargi said about the grassroots level, when all the pitches for domestic matches are spin friendly. And all the teams start off with the new ball. You will see spinners starting off. Barely pacers bowling 10 overs out of the 50 overs. How will you make pacers all of a sudden? You can't build pacers in WPL. You can't make pacers in your terrace. You have to make them in domestic cricket. So these things are stuff that administrators need to look into.
Shobik, yeah, I'll come to you. The point that all of these people are making, I thought Shubhayan made a good point about Jay. Now, Jay's problem is because he's the son of the home minister. Always people will judge him by that paradigm. But the fact of the matter is, as BCCI or as ICC, he has actually made tangible contributions. Now, acknowledge Jay Shah as Jay Shah. Forget Jay Shah as Amit Shah's son. Vet Jay Shah and criticize him or praise him. If you actually see his contribution to the women's game, the start of the WPL, the hosting of the World Cup, the way this tournament went about, what happened here. Give the man his due. Even last year, when the Indian journalist was stranded in the US, the way he got the journalist back from that hurricane, that shows a degree of sensitivity. So when an administrator is doing something for the game, it is essential to recognize that and not castigate him because he's someone's son. That's our problem. That has always been an issue. But Shomik, think the football example. If I was Indian Football Association today, All India Football Federation, honestly, I will go and put all my eggs in the women's football basket. The women's senior team, under 20 team, and under 17 team have all qualified for the Asian Cup. Think about it. They have a remote chance, but chance for the Olympic Games and the Football World Cup. The men do not have in the next 20 years at least. So the
100
women
years.
have opened up this door, this window of opportunity. So even if you're an administrator, damn well see where you can become a hero. Do go and invest. If you go and invest in the women's game, India gets a medal in Los Angeles 2028. It will turn corners. Shomik, you wanted to make a point and also address this.
See, the thing is that market unfortunately doesn't act or operate like that. I mean, this is not only India's problem. I mean, Gargi and Trisha raised some very fair points, like the women, the men. I mean, the mainstream, the players had the access to indoor facilities and all. Trisha also raised some points, but I am making the canvas a bit wider. This is not only India's problem. This happens all over the world. As in terms of women's sport all over the world thrives on sporadic moments. You take, I mean, I'm taking things as you mentioned, football. I'm taking it to the home of football, England. England, the home of democracy also. England won the Euro, Women's Euro, and then they qualified for back to back finals, winning one of them. Can you ever think Ela Toon grabbing the same column inches as that of Declan Rice or Harry Kane? Manchester United, the world's richest club. The men's team play at Old Trafford. Where do their women's team play? At Lay Village. And this is happening at a place that has that has a woman as their strongest ever prime minister. Margaret Thatcher. Winston Churchill was way ahead of my time. Margaret Thatcher, their strongest ever prime minister. This is happening in England. If you, I mean, go to any example, go to golf. Do you, I mean, someone, a woman golfer, uh, or does she get the same recognition that of a Greg Norman or a Jack Nicklaus? She doesn't. When you talk about tennis, when someone says who's the greatest of them all, the people start rattling off Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal, Rod Laver, John McEnroe, blah 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 blah. Martina Navratilova, Martina Navratilova, Chris Evert, Steffi Graf, they come in isolation in separate cases. Like in women's tennis, Martina Navratilova probably is the greatest. Something like that. This is the problem. This is a world problem. This is not India's problem. And you also spoke about whether cricket can be the number two sport in this country. There is a chance of being cricket, women's cricket can be number two because there is a sporting void in this country. Remember that even at the home of England, women's team after winning the Euro or was finishing as runner-up last year, it didn't become the number two sport in England. It is still men's football number one, one, two, three. Number four is cricket. Number five is rugby. So it works like that everywhere. So this is the perception. Maybe 50 years down the line, things can change. And also, there is I will keep it short and I will take just one more minute. 4 or 5 years back, I was having a conversation with Rahul Dravid. Nothing cricket about the cricketing market being saturated, and Rahul made a very valid point. I mean, this year we saw the brand value of IPL has dropped. So the thing is that it is not earlier in the 80s, 90s, or at the turn of the century. Cricket was the only sport in terms of watching. It is no longer like that. Cricket has a serious competition in terms of watching, not playing with English Premier League. with La Liga, the other sport. That was something that Rahul was mentioning. I don't see, unfortunately, for the time being, women's cricket or women's sport will have to thrive on sporadic successes.
Bharat, I'll give you the last word and then close with Trisha.
Sorry,
And
Boryada, I know I'm interrupting everywhere, but I have to make a point to what Shamikda said. But Shamikda, I kind of disagree a little on this. Australian women's team and England women's team have always been kept at par with their men's team. If you check, and that's where the result comes from. So when people come and say, why does Australia have 7 trophies? Why do they have 10 trophies? And why do we have 1 trophy? This is one of the biggest reasons that they, for a longest time, I think from 2005 6, have been in the same parameter. We have come in the same parameter, not even in the same parameter. Like we have come close in say about 2017. So anyway, we are running 11, 12, 13, years late. So when you say that none of the countries or none of the sports it's in the same level, these two they are, but rest I completely agree with you.
No, no, Trisha, I totally agree with you. But what if where you are coming from? You are coming from the administration's point of view. I am talking from the market's point of view. Does an Ellis Perry get the same brand value of a Pat Cummins? It doesn't, right? I'm purely talking about the marketing terms. It is that market decides
I'm also
everything.
talking about the marketing terms itself. They back Ellis Perry as much as they promote Pat Cummings. That's what I'm telling you. So you
no,
go
no,
to
no.
England.
I think Shomik's making a different point, Trisha. So you're talking from the CA point perspective that they pay equal money, they pay equal whatever.
Okay,
Shomik is saying
he's
so
talking about
from a
corporate.
marketer. Yeah, say the
Ah,
marketer,
okay.
will
Yeah.
you give Ellis Perry the same amount of Australian dollars that you will give a Pat Cummins? Maybe that's the point that he's trying to make. The fact is, Bharat, if I can close with you, that's why I said that there is a huge opportunity when I wear my editor's hat. If I have to put in my money into coverage, do I now say, okay, this win will allow me to get into this market and make a difference? So here I sent 3 people. Should I send 6 for the next World Cup and capture that coverage? Do I have that opportunity, which I don't have for the men's game? Do we see that possibility? There is a 2% CSR in India. Can this be this be tapped into? That okay, this is about education, about aspiration, about empowerment, about that story. So is there an opportunity at every level, Bharat Ramraj, that this point that Shomik and Trisha, both coming from different angles but both making the same point, can that be addressed? Bharat, final point.
No, there is still definitely an untapped market out there that the administrators can look to capture. If you look at WPL as well, it's growing. It's growing quite a bit over the last 3 seasons compared to what it was in 2023. The kind of interest that I saw in 2025 was definitely different. When I went to cover a couple of matches in 2024 as well, the interest compared to that in 2025 was different. And after having watched this particular final and semi-final as well, I'm pretty sure a lot of girls will also get inspired and they will take up the sport in the future. And India definitely, you expect Indian women's cricket to grow further. And as far as Ellis Perry is concerned, I just have to add one thing. I think this is my humble opinion. I genuinely believe she's more marketable than Pat Cummins. I saw that with RCB. The kind of support that someone like Ellis Perry gets is unbelievable. It is something that is mind blowing for me. I think she's a very huge star, and in Indian women's cricket
I'll,
also.
I'll, I'll end the show with this, that we in Calcutta take a lot of pride in our women's performances. Jhulan Goswami, the city doesn't have a WPL team, still doesn't. How many matches, women's matches, has Eden Gardens hosted? Nothing. We have a Richa Ghosh, we have a Dipti Sharma, we have a Tita Sadhu, we have a Jhulan Goswami. We can keep saying names. How many matches do we get? So when we think that this World Cup has given us momentum, The first step, can WPL in January be actually played on home and away basis with all the teams? Can there be more teams added in the future? Men's teams increased from 8 to 10. Can the number of teams grow from 6 to 8? The point we are trying to make, and all of us are being constructive here, is that this victory is an opportunity. This victory is an opportunity, it's the foundation. Can there be a superstructure? Can we build that superstructure, or do we lose this momentum when India doesn't win the next T20 World Cup? God willing, that will happen, that India wins, but suppose it doesn't. So that's what we are trying to say. And let's also accept the fact we have won the World Cup, but we are not the best team yet. Like Gukesh said, he is the world champion. Nelson is the best player in the world. So even from the perspective of playing, when the dust settles on the euphoria, we should all accept that there is an opportunity for us, that now we are world champions in the 50 over format, to also be the best on, take an England on, and keep beating them consistently, and not say that this was the upset of the tournament. I'll end there, because this was one show that I personally think I loved quite a bit. We do shows for a living. That's our job every day at 5 o'clock. But very rarely do you actually have a discussion that you don't want to end and you want to continue with it, because each one got really involved and made some very, very interesting points. Shomik Chakraborty, Bharat Ramraj, Shubhayan Chakraborty, Gargi Rao, Trisha Ghoshal, Snehashish Mukherjee. I'm sorry we couldn't take too many questions today, but I think you guys must have enjoyed the discussion, because it was different, it was refreshing, and it was in depth. Thank you very much.